Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, welcome to the Beacon TVL Show, the weekly podcast from Beacon DeFi, your beacon in the world of decentralized finance. I'm your host, Professor Chris, the DeFi professor. We got a great show lined up for you as we tackle the news of the week that's relevant to you, our dear users in the world of on-chain investing. It's just me on this show today, so basically we're just going to go a little bit through the news. Just need to go out and just make one quick shout, saying the word that we are live. And we'll be good to go. Hopefully everyone had a great Thanksgiving and Black Friday and Cyber Monday holiday. Hello to everybody who took advantage of our Black Friday special. Okay. So we're ready to go. Okay, so let's talk about the one thing we talk about every week when it comes to the markets, and that is where we are at currently. So let's go with this view since it's just me today. Let me make sure this is okay. It's zoomed in pretty far. We're back up on the way to 100K. Now, what's interesting is kind of how we got here. There's been a lot of talk about manipulation, about market makers and CEXs kind of carving a path. And honestly, probably a lot of that is quite true. However, the landscape is different, right? It remains to be seen exactly where we're going to be going from here. I would like to think we're pre-programmed to go and reclaim 100K before the end of the year. It really depends on a couple of things, I think, geopolitically. You guys know I've been watching Japan for quite some time. I think that continues. And we'll see exactly what happens with some of the announcements that are going to be coming this month. I know quite a few people are in Miami for Art Basel this week. So congrats if you're there. I know a lot of people are also gearing up to head out to the Middle East, as Abu Dhabi is going to be hosting not only Bitcoin MENA, which is Middle East, North Africa. They're also going to be hosting Solana Breakpoint. And yeah, it should be a very interesting next couple of weeks. There's already been a lot of interesting announcements put out. We're not going to cover them all today, but we're looking in the green so far. I mean, if you use Sunday as the start of the week, we're up 7%. Yesterday we were almost up 10%. But I think there's cautious optimism, but I think there's still a lot of people who are still really kind of curious to see what happens here. Looking at bubbles. Well, if we look at the day, we're mostly green. Even players like Zcash, even players like ENA are back up. I mean, AVAX back above $13 is a good sign here. I think there's some bullishness, I would say, with a lot of there's supposed to be a pretty big announcement. Well, there's supposed to be a big announcement yesterday from President Trump, and nothing that I think really affected any markets. But I think moving forward, we're going to see exactly how the rest of the year is going to shape up. Granted, we're in December, right? So in a couple of weeks, everyone's just going to go take a vacation for a little bit. So we'll see exactly what's happening here. But today, and Tom Lee, the CEO and chairman of Bitmine Immersion, they're trying to buy 5% of the global ETH supply. He says that today's big upgrade to the Beacon chain, not related, by the way, but that is the main Ethereum proof of stake blockchain. They had their Fusaka upgrade that went live this morning. A lot of things are happening during this upgrade, not a ton, but This is the second time in a year they've actually done a network upgrade. This is not something that normally happens, to my knowledge. So the fact that they did two in a year is kind of interesting. Um, but they introduced a couple of things that are going to be pretty interesting. The first is the peer DAS framework. That is really just to help uh, with sampling. It just makes it easier for consensus to happen. Data availability will be easier. I think overall, it should just make the network faster. Also, one thing here is because we're doing data sampling, let's beacon node sample small pieces of blob data instead of every blob. So ultimately, this is helping with, besides data availability, just redundancy. It should help with transactions. Honestly, light nodes are probably going to be coming soon with something like this because it allows, for those of you who've ever set up a node, even on something like an L2, it takes a long time to set things up. It's very resource heavy. This could open the door for a lot lighter and faster infrastructure to come through to make, uh, overall Ethereum very, very fast. And we have Mega ETH, we have Monad, we have more of these parallelized EVM structures and infrastructure that makes uh, settling transactions very quick. And that's where a lot of the rest of this is tuned. And shout out to this is James from the Ethereum Foundation. He put through this specific uh, graphic that we're looking at right here. So apparently, it's 13 Ethereum improvement protocols proposals. So again, the peer DOS helps with with sampling. It helps with rollups. Actually, are really big winners in this. Also helps with capacity. And then the other one that was interesting to me, which one was it? There was one in particular. Well, they're capping the transaction limit cap. So hopefully what this does is it'll just make throughput better. It'll make it faster. Oh, and the other thing, yes. So they have a new wallet push through where you can use pass keys. So that's opening it up for biometrics. And we talked about this, I think, 3 weeks ago, specifically on Avalanche. Avalanche now supports biometrics with uh, approving transactions. Wallets that are going to be supporting this will also be able to use passkeys, so passwordless methods, biometrics, multi-factor authentication, better ways to approve transactions. Ultimately, much like 7702, which came with the Pectra upgrade, this is all user-facing kind of upgrades this year. Things to help with the better user experience. I don't know if there's a ton of protocols that are 7702 compliant, meaning that you don't have to have the two transactions anymore. It's just because generally on EVM blockchains, you have two transactions with every transaction that you have on a DeFi protocol. You have the approval step, which allows the protocol to spend the capital that you're putting into a smart contract, and then the execution of that command into a smart contract, and then whatever the transaction would be. So the ability to have that in one transaction, much like other ecosystems like Cosmos, like Solana, and other blockchains that just have it all in one transaction. This is always good to see. But I'm very curious to see how this works with passkey native wallets. I think this would be really good specifically for hardware wallets. I think would be good. And I just think in general, security is meant to be annoying, to be quite honest. And it always is. It's just a matter of, if we can find more convenient security methods to work on this. And I think passkey native wallets is a really good gateway to that. So, uh, Well, more scaling. Although in at Dev Connect they talked a lot more about layer one scaling, seeing that they're increasing the blob parameter only forks so that it's better, uh, more throughput is good. We want to continue to see that because there will be more L2s coming. It's just a lot easier for a lot of institutions, like for example Kraken with their Inc layer 2 on the OP superchain, just taking battle tested code that already works instead of creating their own, uh, will be good to see. Well, they did talk about scaling layer 1 here, so this will be interesting to see how it works. And again, Glamsterdam is next year. That's the next fork. We'll see exactly how things move from that perspective. But yeah, so far nothing seems to be. I mean, they have 2 test nets that they go through before they even come on to mainnet. So uh, everything seems to be working fine there. No one seems to be having any real issues, which is good to see. And let's see. Yeah, that will probably be the biggest things. The gas caps for hardening against DDoS against or denial of service against just denial of service attacks is going to be good. So yeah, that's going to be the big thing there with Fusaka going through. Feel free to check out the Ethereum roadmap if that's something you're very interested in. Is this bullish for ETH overall? Yeah, of course. Anything that makes ETH as a layer 1 faster. Will they ever get past the 13-second execution time? Probably sometime. Today is not that day. But the ability for layer 2s to get cheaper and faster is key. And we'll see exactly, once they start scaling with the L1, with layer 1 beacon, we're going to see a lot of network effects coming up to the layer 2s and probably to the layer 3s. And, well, I don't think we'll have anything higher than layer 3s. But one thing we've talked about on this show is the idea that app chains are probably going to come sooner than you think. We're going to talk about Aave in a second. Aave is on record saying that once Aave v4 comes out, the Aave chain comes next. And it wouldn't necessarily be like this long, drawn out process. It's probably going to be like a roll up that is on a layer 2, like Arbitrum or Optimism, or maybe something else. Maybe a layer 1 roll up, kind of like how Tycho works. Stuff like that. But the ability for apps to have their own infrastructure to take care of things in the background, I think will probably be great. DBank's a great example of this. They have their own layer 2, which is on the OP superchain, that takes care of the gas account and a couple of other things behind the scenes, specifically for the Rabby wallet. That makes it great. So speaking of Aave, they're making some moves. We talked a little bit about the hub and spoke system, and shout out to Pink Brains specifically for how Aave v4 is going to work as we move bigger. So with multiple liquidity hubs that are going to be deployed across the ecosystem, that will, I guess, essentially settle down on Ethereum mainnet. You're going to have hubs and then you're going to have spokes. And the spokes are going to be really just regional moves or regional tunnels to access liquidity cross-chain, right? Between the hubs. And Ethereum will have a liquidity hub. They'll probably have other hubs as well, much like this announcement with Babylon. Now, there will be a native Bitcoin-backed spoke on Aave v4, which will be working with Babylon through their liquid staking and other related adjacent tech to bring this to Aave. So that'll be great, mainly because Aave has always used BitGo's Wrapped Bitcoin, which is WBTC, and this will provide a very interesting formula. So very curious to see how this works out. This should actually open up quite a bit hopefully for BTC-fi, quote unquote. It'll give you a much more honest way, a much more decentralized and trustless way to get real yield on your Bitcoin outside of just the liquid staking part, right? Because liquid staking on Babylon is fine. What they do is they sell the Bitcoin proof of work security to proof of stake layer twos that really just want better security for their blockchain ecosystems. And there are multiple operators in the Babylon ecosystem like Lombard, Lorenzo, Pump, Corn, Solve. I know I'm leaving out at least 10, but regardless, Babylon announcing that they're working with Aave to bring a spoke in this system, which would be all of this here, to bring Bitcoin in as a native asset, is actually very exciting. Will it be exactly what you think it is? Yeah. To some degree. It'll still be you'll still have an Aave based wrapped asset representing your position. Just so you know, that'll always be the case. But it looks better. It's a good way for you to try and get more exposure specifically for your Bitcoin. Granted, that is CBBTC's logo. Is it not? From Coinbase. The other part of the news is Bybit, the CEX, which is the CX behind the Mantle layer 2, which is also on the OP superchain, except they're not using OP's data availability layer. I think are they using Celestia? I'm trying to remember exactly. But they're actually going to use Bybit as a hub with CEX liquidity in a very interesting way here. I'm definitely very curious to see exactly how they're going to make this work. They're using a partner named Token Logic to create a spoke, and I'm assuming a liquidity hub through Bybit or proxied by Bybit to bring Aave services and markets to Mantle. This will be a two-way relationship. So knowing what we know specifically about Aave before, this should actually be very interesting. Mantle's actually put a lot on the table over the last 12 months. They've really embraced RWAs. They had that unfortunate, gigantic 9-figure hack, which they ate, by the way, and made whole. So good for them on that. Looks like there'll be Mantle or MNT based yield incentive programs. So I like Mantle as a layer 2. I always have. I do have quite a few bags on Mantle. I'm a big fan of Merchant Mo. Frankly, what Trader Joe should always be, but it's not called that anymore. So this is Joe's cousin, Merchant Mo. But yeah, Mantle's a good chain. It's fast, fairly inexpensive. A lot of things happening. They're looking to bring more of a neobank look to a lot of the RWAs and just holding liquidity on that chain, which is pretty interesting. They have an index called the MI4 that you may want to look into if you're curious about checking out a new ecosystem. You may want to look into Mantle if you're looking to, bring some money somewhere else inside the DeFi infrastructure. It's fairly easy to bridge to now. You can use Squid Router. Jumper, I believe, goes there as well. But yeah, an Aave partnership, probably really good for them. Look at Inc. from Kraken. They actually have an Aave white label called Tidro Finance. And it brought in, I think, 38 million in TVL or something like that in the first week. So it's going to bring an infusion of cash into Mantle, I think, which will be very welcome for a lot of the liquidity protocols that are down there. Whether it be Merchant Mo, whether it be Cleopatra or some of these other dexes that are down there. This will be good overall, and we'll see if this affects or brings better incentives to things like their Mantle ETH, which is called Meth. And we'll see exactly how that kind of works out. So yeah, very interested to see specifically how uh, this will all work out on both Mantle and Babylon. Babylon is an actual layer one as well to handle a lot of that uh, smart contract based talk on the backside. So really excited for that. Moving back, so Yearn had an unfortunate exploit. I believe it was over the weekend. Yearn's one of the oldest protocols in all of DeFi. Now, it didn't really affect V2 or V3 vaults, which is it's great to hear. Let me grab the actual tweet where they put out. I'll just bring up their profile. For us specifically, when we had heard about this, the scariest part was, are we in a position where, Yearn vaults across the ecosystem, because they've done a lot of work to do that over the past 2 years to bring V2 and V3 vaults to multiple blockchain ecosystems, not just on ETH mainnet or just on Phantom Opera, the old Phantom Opera, but we're talking about Arbitrum, Optimism. It's a huge part of Katana and some of these other L2s that are out there. And they've been working to recover some of the money that was 9 million that was infinitely minted in a very clean way, if I may say so myself. Being an OG in this space, the way that they were able to move everything in one transaction was kind of crazy. Not going to really go into it too much on what happened, but it was a very interesting way that it was done. It was very similar to balancers, so with like precision rounding and messing with the price oracle, that type of stuff. It was a custom version of popular stable swap code, unrelated to other Yearn products, but it did happen on ETH mainnet, by the way. So V2 and V3 vaults are not at risk. That was a big yay, honestly, when we heard that. Same thing with Katana and V3 not affected. Anything that is curated also fine. So as long as it wasn't a V2 or V3 vault, which means the earlier versions, which was the same version, the same issue with Balancer, was a V2 exploit, as opposed to a V3. People coming through. I mean, that's kind of the interesting part about smart contracts. Once it's been deployed, it cannot be modified. We call that immutable. And what's crazy about that is that oftentimes there will be millions of dollars in funds in some of these in some of these markets. I mean, a great example of this is at Aave. Now everything's at a V3, but there is still a V2. And so there's still only 3 markets left. There used to be more. I mean, but there's still plenty of money still in these contracts. So for very smart people going through and trying to exploit some of these older contracts that may have some little things about them that can be modified or at least manipulated, is a little concerning. The other concerning thing was something that was put out by Anthropic, the company that's behind Claude AI. They worked with their quote unquote red team to use AI agents to go through, and they found about 4.6 million in blockchain smart contract exploits. Now, there's some framing with this. just so everybody knows that yes, this is not a good look, but there is framing involved with this because it is a specific set of smart contracts that they are going after. Yeah, so it is Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Base. And all they did was go through, it looks like exploited smart contracts. And they use that to then go across a specific sample of blockchain smart contracts. Now, I know, so there are a lot of people have, well, I'm just reading, no one specifically asked me. They're like, is this something that means that all of our wallets are going to get drained? Well, I think the answer to that is inherently no, right? The first thing that you need to do, period, at this point, almost every day now, or whenever you do a transaction, is automatically, I'm going to use Rabbi for the example, come through and revoke your approvals immediately, right? Any approvals that you have here, you should go and just revoke them. And what's beautiful about this is that you can do it in batch and just take care of it with one click. And that's the beautiful thing about Rabbi. It's from the DBank team. They had one of the best batch revoke approval things in the business before they took it away from everybody and just put it directly inside of Rabbi. But yeah, what's interesting is that they were able to find quite a bit. And it looks like the majority of them according to this, oh, okay. It seemed like it was just on Binance Smart Chain. That's not the case. They just went on, well, yeah, it looks like it was just on BSC. Now this was just for the experiment, and they talked to Seal about this, as I saw down here. So clearly everybody behind the scenes knew that this was going on, because Seal was made aware. So Seal would, of course, talk to every protocol about this happening and seeing what was happening with the results. So I think the purpose of this is just kind of seeing how AI agents are starting to become more robust, because they've gone from being able to exploit 2% of vulnerabilities to 55.88%. That's a lot. The good part about this is that this opens the door to AI agent defense on these types of vulnerabilities. The one beautiful thing about DeFi is that in DeFi, code is law because of smart contracts. That doesn't mean that manipulation can't happen, and we're seeing it at the CEX level, right? At the market maker level. But in DeFi, code is law. And once there's an exploit, a solution's found, it hardens the system. It will continue to improve over time. And that's probably the one thing that most people need to understand. And I'm not going to say take solace in, but it's a little bit of a wake-up call. If anything, it just means that, at least for people in our communities, who go through our content, this is the time to go through and make sure that your operational security, your OPSEC, is top-notch. Make sure you're always revoking approvals. Make sure that you are not using older wallets that possibly could have a trail that could be exploited in some way. Unless you have a real reason to hold on to a wallet, like you're just trying to farm an airdrop or something like that, I would recommend you probably rotate to a new, fresh set of wallets. Fund them from a CEX and start fresh. You should probably be doing this once every 18 months anyway. Obviously, not financial advice to you on research. These are just things that we recommend from a best practices standpoint. Because at Beacon, security is top priority. People ask me all the time, Chris, how do I make money in DeFi or make money in crypto? Like, it's simple. You don't lose money. Any way you can prevent that from happening. Obviously, you can't control the market. If we could, we'd all be gazillionaires. but having a common sense approach to blockchain investing, being strong with your security, not making any rash or silly decisions, and having an all-weather portfolio. These are all things that we preach on day one and continue to preach. And we have people who've been in our community for years now. It's a great segue over to our free group. Again, thanks for joining me today on the show. If you like what you are hearing, please join our free group, school.com/beacon, total value locked by Beacon DeFi. Join the many who have, well, we've got people who are already posting wins that have nothing to do with anything. So I'm going to go remove that member. But check out our Start Here post. You'll get a message from myself and our CEO, Andrew. You'll see our different pathways. We have plenty of free content to get you into DeFi. But if you'd rather have one-on-one mentorship, the most up-to-date content, access to group calls, access to me, join our Beacon Mastermind. You also get access to our fantastic Discord and all of our resources that the TVL side doesn't really get any access to. So with that said, shout out to all of our Beacon Mastermind founding members, to all of our current Beacon Mastermind members and our Beacon Challenge members, and our Beacon Spotlight members as well. Thanks for making what we do possible. School.com/beacon. Okay, back to the news. One thing that people ask me about all the time, and this is something that was interesting, and it came from a funny post that said, you don't have to worry about reporting anything to the IRS anymore, because all you should do is just spend money using crypto cards. And the number of people who responded to this was, and I don't know if this person was serious or if they were trolling and were looking for engagement bait, because they got it. They got a ton of people saying, do not listen to this person. I responded with a Austin Powers, how about no, from Dr. Evil gif. But crypto cards, and just talking about it, really, one thing you can see here just from this list is just how many more. And shout out to Mars from Mars DeFi. This was just in November, right? These are just the ones that are just, these are the established ones, right? And most of them kind of come from the same company. Not all of them, but the majority of them do. Like a lot of them are serviced by Cypher. Great team at Cypher. Shout out to them. Spritz Finance, long time way to pay for bills in the space. You just use funds that are on, well, I'm sure they're everywhere now, but it originally was just on Polygon and ETH mainnet. There's Gnosis Pay from the Gnosis chain, which used to be the old XDAI chain. Now you have other big cards. EtherFi, one of our content partners. They're pretty much a neobank now. Not only can you go and deposit money in their neobank and into their savings account infrastructure, you also get a virtual Visa card, a Visa debit card, which I think comes from Cypher, as well as well, now they give hotel and travel perks as well. So give them a look. Crypto.com. I don't have my wallet here, but you know, I had a white Crypto.com Visa for a long time. Didn't decide to go for the black. Just stayed couple tiers below. But yeah, it was very easy just to top up your Crypto.com account and just pay for things, you know, using the USDC that you have on there. Same with Cypher. You just have to have it on a blockchain they support, and as long as you have funds available, they normally just put them together and use it from there. So So this would be the Visa side. There's also the MasterCard side, the MetaMask card, which is in partnership with MasterCard using their, I believe it's I think it's either BenPay or one of these. It's Europe based. SoFi now has a physical only MasterCard. So this is all very good stuff with regards to where that's going. Now, looking at the V2 portion. Now we have even more cards out. So, and quite a few are coming from the Solana side now too. Now with X402, the AI agent payment protocol, what's going to become more of an AI agent protocol, anyone can use X402. Now we're seeing even more groups coming in, and I'll put the I'll do Mars the solid, and I'll put this in a comment section here for Twitter and for Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube. Shout out to everybody on Retake, Den.show, as well as Abstract. I can put that link in those chats as well. But what does this mean for you, the everyday investor? This means that you can actually have profits paid for without ever leaving DeFi. And that's actually really, really interesting. I will say, I think for the majority of these, except for possibly Off the Grid and a couple others, you do have to KYC, which is, for some people, a deal breaker. There are some that you don't have to. Wow, Thor Wallet has a virtual MasterCard. Interesting. That is news to me. Anyway, this will tell you everything that you need to know about the part twos here. And there's a ton now, right? And this is just for spending your crypto. This is different than the XRP card from Gemini, the Sol card from Gemini, the Coinbase Amex, and the Solana Gemini card. All those just pay you back, I think, 4% in whatever asset that you are looking for. So there's plenty of options here. I think it's very very interesting to see, and we'll see how many. There's clearly plenty of people here, so they've tested enough. They're spending the money. It's all about getting people to use the infrastructure. Will all of these be around in 2 years? No. In fact, probably half will be gone in the next 12 to 18 months due to running out of runway, not getting enough traction, they pivot. There's a lot of reasons why some of these won't be around anymore. But there's a lot of reasons to say that quite a few will, especially in underserved and unbanked countries. This is fantastic because this is an easy way to make sure that you can use any of the hard-earned funds that you're working with. We have many people in our group who just farm stable coins to pay their bills, to pay taxes for capital gains and stuff like that. This is an easy way to continue to, I don't see Swipe.fun here. Swipe.fun from Brahma. There it is, virtual Visa cards. Brahma, they have an AI agent that it can actually go through, and when you have enough profit, it'll go and pay things like a Netflix subscription and stuff like that using a virtual Visa card that it creates for things like that. So you have a way to passively just pay for all of your weekly and monthly expenses if you're in that position to do so. So obviously not financial advice, not tax advice either. You're going to have to pay for it in some way. So just remember that. Are these companies going to be required to report to the to your tax jurisdiction about your tax statements? That I don't know. I haven't done enough research into that. I haven't talked to enough of these companies. If any of them want to open the lines of communication and talk about how that would work, feel free to hit me up. Would love to talk to you about it. But that is that's a big deal in my personal opinion. The ability to just easily, because where we are today, looking at this December landscape part 2, I mean, you just saw how many were not in this list. We're talking like 50 to 60 vendors now. 2.5 years ago, 3 years ago, there's only, well, Cypher was one of them, because I met Cypher at ETH Denver when they were first coming out. This just wasn't a thing. You know, we were still trying to figure out how we were offboarding, but now it's just so simple. Let me grab there's a tweet that I wanted to talk about specifically, because it kind of ties into the next thing. Okay, so prediction markets are super big right now, right? They are being talked about at the highest levels. Let me bring myself back out here. Kalshi and Polymarket are being used by Yahoo, by Google. I just saw on the timeline, or rather on my I want to say just on a news feed on my fridge. I know how that sounds. I don't know why it's on my fridge, but you know, it just happens to there just happens to be a news feed that I have no idea how to turn off that's on my fridge now. Kalshi is now partnered with CNN. And shout out to the CEO of Kalshi. She's apparently the youngest billionaire, one of the youngest billionaires ever in history. So congrats to her to get to that. I mean, it's in a world full of interesting plays. It takes a lot of savvy. At least up until recently, Kalshi didn't really have a Web3 strategy. They hired a bunch of people to bring one in, and they absolutely have brought one in now. You know, they started off with Jupiter. Jupiter Markets is going to be the first Kalshi powered ones, but I'm guessing they're bringing more Kalshi stuff over, because the other big news is that Kalshi prediction markets are now tokenized on Solana. And I know it's kind of hard to specifically wrap your head around what this means, but it means that quote unquote truth can now be hedged, I think is what I saw somewhere. Yeah, prediction markets allow anyone to trade a belief against another trader. I don't know what to say to that statement. Do you? Please, in the comments, tell me, what are your thoughts on the idea that a tokenized prediction market now means that anyone who wants to trade a belief against another trader can now do so? Now, granted, that's really blowing up the idea of a prediction market, and honestly, it's just, a lot of people think it's like sports betting, which in a lot of ways you're not wrong. Across now, shout out to marketing at Kalshi. Across countless use cases, prediction markets have proven to be one of the highest fidelity mechanisms humans have for forecasting the future. That is a wild statement, an absolutely wild statement. It also means, as much as it says here, because they are tokens, they are now first-class citizens in the Solana ecosystem. And to be fair, Kalshi didn't come from nowhere. Just so you guys know. I mean, I knew about them a couple of years ago. They weren't really doing what they're doing now, but to a degree they were. But This is the part that's interesting. They're going to be using an API on Solana called DFlow, and DFlow is going to use this CLP, this concurrent liquidity program, which will allow token minting through transactions, which sounds very basic, but the ability to use this and tie it to something like a Kalshi prediction market is honestly stunning. I mean, it's exactly what it sounds like. Thanks to the API and the ability to tie a token with backing to anything that's on Kalshi's platform means they've got a market already. They are real SPL tokens, that they're not derivatives or anything. They get all of the bells and whistles, and they probably get all of the token extensions that are available as well. There's like 35 to 40 token extensions available to developers for tokens that are SPL tokens. And some of them are like blanks that's open to them, but also things like address blacklisting, privacy. There's a whole bunch of things that people don't talk about that are available as token extensions that developers can now use. And this will be very interesting to see how this happens. I mean, this could possibly lead to using prediction markets specifically for on-chain voting. Imagine the first, and I don't know why Vietnam came directly to my mind. Was it Vietnam? Where they had, or was it Nepal, my bad, Nepal, where they overthrew the government and used Discord as a vote to elect a new prime minister. I haven't checked to see if that's still valid, by the way. I just remember the moment. I was just like, wow, Discord's come a long way. But yeah, I mean, there's all of these things that are available because it's now just used as a regular token through this DFlow API. And granted, this is exactly what I was just going to talk about here through their website. But so it's interesting, much like Blinks, they're able to take the liquidity that comes off chain through, say, a Kalshi market and bring it on chain into a specific token mint. So each of these tokens, I'm guessing, are going to be, I'm guessing they're just fully backed by the liquidity in the pool. Because once you vote for something, you can't remove your vote, if I'm not mistaken. And granted, we're literally talking about pennies. But just to get an idea how much these markets are pulling in, I mean, this is just 1.9 million just for who will win the House next year, right? We've got 43 million on the winner of the Super Bowl. No, the Rams are the front runner, right? We'll see. Now, this pulls up a lot of things you can do specifically with hedging your bet, which I'm actually quite excited to see, and seeing how you can earn from things like that. Shout out to everybody in the abstract chat with the Pengu icons. So I'll be very interested to see how this works. Because now that they've done this for Kalshi, they can do this for anything. Quite honestly. So I'm very curious to see how this will be used to bring more things on chain. Tokenization of everything, right? So if you can tokenize any of this stuff, I mean, wait till you get to, I mean, you've already seen it. We may not be that far away from having a system that's set up with private controls, thanks to all the Solana token extensions, where this is a real part of the election. The question is the politicization of it, right? I mean, the majority of Republican ideology doesn't want mail-in voting. Why would they want on-chain voting, right? We'll see. We'll see. But congrats to Kalshi. That's a huge move for them. I mean, they've come a long way in a very small amount of time. I mean, and look at Polymarket on the other side as well. Two multi-billion-dollar companies that are now the darlings of tech because of this on-chain based potential. Speaking of on-chain based potential, I'm a fan. The reason why I'm a fan is it's just something that such a Sony thing to do, right? Classic Sony. I'm kidding. I know very little about how Sony really works, to be honest, but they're a major electronics brand. The idea that they're going to have their own stablecoin starting in early 2026 for the purpose of payments and settlement within its gaming and anime business is the key to this working. And we've talked about this with multiple panelists on the show. Because as many people who are on panel, and me personally, same thing with the team here at Beacon, we're all big gamers. The idea that GameFi can really be a real thing comes down to not only the players, the consumers of the content buying in, which they will if it's through Sony, right? The other problem has always been with brand name recognition. Sony doing this is huge. And to be fair, a lot of people within this umbrella, from developers to gaming studios, they've been in Web3 for quite some time. There are multiple groups that were using Cosmos as validators and various other things. Because they see the writing on the wall. They see a world where if you can control the economy, control how users spend their money in your ecosystem. I mean, go look at see how Roblox, how Minecraft, Fortnite, all of these other groups that have their own quote unquote currency. This is no different than that, because you're going to be buying into the system. They'll have a whole facility where you will be given Sony USD coins. That is their coin. That's 1-to-1. It's not, just like Robux and V-Bucks and all this other stuff. This is just going to be bank backed. Because because it has to be Genius. If it's going to be a Genius regulated stablecoin, they have to have 1-to-1 backed assets at all times with monthly transparency reports. These are two things that many of the big centralized coins that we like USDC, USDT, Athena, they all do now. So I don't think from a regulation standpoint that'll be a problem, but just the thought that anyone in the PlayStation network is going to be using an actual stable coin to pay for access to the PlayStation network, probably for buying anime-based things, merch, is amazing. This is what we're saying when DeFi is the future of finance, is the future of the way we're going to be doing business. Things like this are going to be a part of that vision. In October, they had a subsidiary called Connectia that filed and I believe received an OCC application, the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency, to get a bank and trust license. So no idea if they've gotten it. I'm assuming, because this was in October, and I don't know when they issue them, but it's going to be 2026 when this happens. But wouldn't it be crazy if Sony is the first what we call Web 2 company to come out and be a big part of the digital asset economy through using it through video games. The one place that we thought, at least I thought, would always be the place where it would start. There are a lot of people like, oh, you can't convince AAA users to do this. If Sony makes this work, watch out. Microsoft is going to do this. Nintendo is definitely going to do this. I mean, Nintendo, groups in Nintendo, studios under the Nintendo umbrella already have a layer 1. They have subnets in AVAX already. Can I say that? I think it's fairly common knowledge. Don't come after me. Regardless, this will be very interesting. And then once that happens, we'll see more businesses start to follow suit. Because the one reason why I predicted that more companies would do this to have their own stable coins is still unbelievably pointed at Tether. And the reason for this is because they had some FUD again. If I can find it. And I'm just looking it up because I want you guys to actually see it. Because Arthur Hayes kind of went after him. I'm not going to find it. I have it somewhere. I thought I had it somewhere in my bookmarks. The point I'm trying to make is Q3 of 2024, they made $2.4 billion in profit. Tether is one of the most profitable companies by employee count in the world because I think they have only like 25 employees. So for them to make 2.3 billion in a quarter, guys, is nuts. I think they're also one of the largest holders of actual gold, which is insane as well. They own more T-bills than half the world, and in gaining. I want to say they were like at 20 last time I checked, but they could be as high as 18 now. Either way, this past Q3, they made $7.7 billion in profit. That's the reason why all of these companies are coming down here, because they want a piece of that pie. I mean, they were excited about coming down when they made 2.3 billion. They made 7.7 billion in a year where everyone was coming for Tether. And I'm talking about every stablecoin issuer. I mean, obviously USDC, Athena, Ondo, Securitize, BlackRock through Biddle with all of these RWA stablecoins, and Tether still 3x'd the profit they made this time last year. That's insane. Shout out to Paulo Arduino and team. Crazy. Anyway, that's all I have for today. Just wanted to bring up those pieces. Not gonna say it's a slow news week, but not a ton in terms of news. I think the market is still very choppy. People are still very cautious, right? Because we went from 120 down to 80, back up to 90, and now we're like, where are we going from here? Tom Lee says we're going to hit 100 and we're going to hit $7,500 Bitcoin or no, ETH, $7,500 ETH by the end of the year, which I don't see happening. But if suddenly we start seeing things go in moon, what were the last 6 weeks? You know? Either way, stay safe, stay secure. Don't overinvest. Have an all-weather portfolio. If you don't know what any of that means, please join our free group. Happy to talk to you about it. School.com/beacon. Absolutely free to join. And looking forward to seeing you all there. With that said, again, we've done this show every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern since December of 2021. And you can check out our community training Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's Beat the Banks. We'll have it on these same social channels, something we've done since January of 2022. So happy to continue that tradition to try and help get as many people who have crypto assets, digital assets, have them work for them. I've seen pleas for people in the trenches to start farming your profits. Please do it. You'll thank yourself later when you're, instead of just holding and getting chopped to death. You have a way to trade and earn passive income while you trade. You should do all of the above. Obviously, be careful with leverage. It's a really choppy time, but we'll be back with a great panel next week. We'll see you then. Have a great week. Take care, everybody. We see you out here. Beacons up. Banks down. Take care, everybody. 07.